Assalamualaikum, Aina Akilah. Assalamualaikum and good morning. Boleh dengar suara saya? Hopefully boleh dengar ya. Okay. Okay, untuk hari ini, for today we will be talking about unit trust, mutual fund and warrant. Okay, if you look at the syllabus, the topic of unit trust or mutual fund is topic 9.0 of your syllabus. Okay, but you don't see unit trust. You see mutual fund and warrant. Mutual fund is another name of unit trust. In America, in the United States, they call it mutual fund. Dana bersama. If you translate it, it literally means dana bersama, mutual fund. Okay, like my wife, she works in public mutual. So public mutual is a unit trust company. Okay, if you ask me, why should we skip so many topics? From first topic of Bursa Malaysia, from the first topic of investment and securities market, 1.0, we skip other topics and we go direct to 9.0, mutual fund and warrant. The reason is, if you follow my English version of the lecture, I have uploaded quite six series, if I'm not mistaken, 6 series of my lectures, Bahasa Malaysia version, BM version, last semester. I went straight from BSKL, from Bursa Malaysia to mutual fund topic or unit trust topic. So to be consistent with my previous semester's lecture, so I just simply follow the sequence, so that some of you might want to look at the BM version of my lecture, so you can go to BM version, and those who are comfortable watching the English version, you can watch the English version, but the sequence are similar, so you don't get confused with that. Another reason why I jump topics from topic 1 to topic 9 is that the reason is that as I mentioned in my first lecture, actually FIN 552 is a combination of FIN 548 and FIN 661. So they abolished FIN 661 and they create a new code called FIN 552, and this new code combined several topics from FIN 548 and FIN 661. So FIN 548 is no longer in the system. FIN 661 also is no longer in the system. So they combine these two codes, will become FIN 552. And of these two codes combined to become FIN 552, 3 topics are from FIN 548, which is the first topic, which is investment and securities market, about Bursa Malaysia, Index, Securities Commission. These are the topics from FIN 548. And then another topic is technical analysis, topic 6.0 of your syllabus. Technical analysis is also taken from FIN 548. And another topic is mutual fund and warrant. So these 3 topics are taken from FIN 548. So if you look at past semester's questions, you don't see a question. If you look at past semester's questions from FIN 661, you don't see these 3 topics being asked: Bursa Malaysia, technical analysis, and mutual fund, because these topics were in FIN 548. So if you are confused with my explanation, doesn't matter. Yeah, all you need to do is to understand my lecture. Okay, now we go to mutual fund or unit trust. This is actually a continuation from the topic of Bursa Malaysia that we have studied in our previous lectures. Kucing masuk rumah saya, kucing saya. Okay, if you remember, in our discussion, we talked about yesterday's discussion. Sorry about the wrong timing of lecture of my life. Actually, we were supposed to have a class at 4, so I did my live at 2 in the afternoon yesterday. So orang tua ni sometimes even they got confused with the timing. So hopefully I'll be more careful in future. Okay. In yesterday's lecture, there's a question on what is the difference between an individual investor and institutional investor. As I explained to you, individual investors are those who invest directly in the stock market. Institutional investors are big companies or big institutions that usually they use other people's money to invest, and institutional investors they invest in a very big amount of money. So usually institutional investors, people will look at what institutional investors do for them to follow. Usually if institutional investors buy stocks in the market, it will push up the price of the stocks. It will push up the index because they buy in bulk, 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 banyak. They buy in bulk, banyak. If institutional investors keep selling their shares, it will cause the market to go down because they will also sell in big quantity of stocks. Okay. So as an individual, you can choose whether you want to invest directly, so you become a retail investor, pelabur runcit, or you can ask somebody else to invest on your behalf. So that's how a unit trust comes into picture. I'm sure I'll give you an example of a unit trust company, ASB. I think everybody is familiar with ASB, and many of you have ASB accounts, right? ASB is the name of the scheme, by the way. Nama scheme tu ASB, Amanah Saham Bumi Putra, but it is managed by PNB, Permodalan Nasional Berhad. Under Permodalan Nasional Berhad, they have so many funds, dana banyak, bukan ASB saja. ASB is only one of several funds that Permodalan Nasional Berhad manage. They have about, I think at latest count, they have something like 19 or 20 funds that under their management. Okay. As the name suggests, unit trust, if you translate it into Malay, saham amanah. Saham amanah. Unit trust is saham amanah. Okay. The concept of unit trust is, let's say I give you a very simple example, ASB lah, because everybody is familiar with ASB. Okay. So ASB, I give you an example of ASB. Amanah Saham Bumi Putra. Amanah Saham Bumi Putra. The concept is many investors millions of investors, in fact, millions of investors will contribute to this fund, dana, fund. Make sure you you pronounce the D. If you say fund as fund gembira, FUN, fund, 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 dana. Okay. So millions of investors for Amanah Saham Bumiputra, only Bumiputra investors. Of course, non-Bumiputras can also invest in the scheme managed by Permodalan Nasional Berhad, but not ASB. They can invest in Amanah Saham Wawasan 2020 and other Amanah Saham. They have so many things, so many Amanah Saham which I can't remember every single one of them. Okay, so we take an example of ASB. So there are so many investors contributing to the fund. Okay, and of course the amount of contributions differ from one investor to another. Some might invest 100 ringgit, some might invest 100,000 ringgit, some might invest 50,000. So all this money contributed by investors will create a very big fund, dana. So there's a very big fund there, and this fund will be managed, akan diuruskan oleh one party, yang kita now for ASB is managed by Permodalan Nasional Berhad, PNB. So PNB, Permodalan Nasional Berhad, is called the fund manager. The fund manager. Okay, I skip one step actually. From the fund, you have to give the fund will be under the management of trustee, actually pemegang amanah, and then the trustee will ask the fund manager to manage the money. But I skip one step in order to avoid you from get confused. If I mention so many steps, you might get confused. So easily said, the fund will be managed by the fund manager. In the case of ASB, the fund in ASB is managed by Permodalan Nasional Berhad. Okay, hopefully by now it's clear. Okay, what do Permodalan Nasional Berhad? What does a Permodalan Nasional Berhad do with your money that so many investors invest in? They will invest the money in the stock market. They will also invest the money in the stock market. So they have the fund manager have the committee to evaluate which stocks that are suitable for this type of investors. Later on in this class, we will talk about so many types of investors. Some investors are risk taker. Risk taker berani menghadapi risiko. So this type of investors, they are willing to accept higher risk as long as they get higher return. This very basic concept of investment, I think everybody is aware of. Some investors are very conservative. They are not willing to accept a very high risk, but they want some reasonable return. So there are certain types of investment in which this conservative or risk-averse investors suits them. So unit trust also under the PNB we have like 19 or 20 or maybe more funds. Maybe they have like what I can remember is like ASB, ASN, Amanah Saham Nasional, Amanah Saham Didik, Amanah Saham Wawasan 2020, Amanah Saham Satu Malaysia. What else? There's so many Amanah Saham lah. All this under the management of Permodalan Nasional Berhad. Okay. Why do they create so many Amanah Saham? Setiap Amanah Saham tu is called fund, dana, fund atau dana. It's just like you go to the restaurant. You have menu to choose from. So let's say you go to McD, McD, and then some of you prefer burger, some of you prefer fried chicken, some of you prefer French fries. So you choose. because the menu gives you the choice. Similarly, for unit trust companies, they create so many funds so that the investors can choose which fund that suits their, they call it risk appetite, selera risiko, risk appetite. It means that those who are risk taker, this is the fund that suits you, high risk, high return. For those who are very conservative, risk averse investors, this is the fund that suits you. For those who are somewhere in between, this is called risk neutral investors. So this type of fund is suitable for you. So they can choose. Okay, back to our discussion on ASB. So ASB, with this fund, the fund manager will invest. Of course, they have the committee to decide which stocks to invest in, and they invest. They buy stocks in the stock market. They buy stocks. They buy shares in Bursa Malaysia and ASB. I'm not sure whether they invest overseas. I think they do invest overseas. In EPF, they do invest overseas. Even ASB, they do invest overseas, in China and in other countries. Okay. If they made the right decisions, so they create a portfolio. By the way, I forgot to mention, they create a portfolio. So this class is about portfolio management, right? So they create a portfolio. Portfolio. A portfolio is a combination of several assets, several funds. So maybe a few percentage, or maybe certain percentage in stock A, then stock B, stock C, stock D, stock E, and stock F, on certain percentages on stocks, different shares. Okay, the advantage of investing in different shares or different stocks to create a portfolio, so you will achieve the risk diversification. The goal of risk diversification. You diversify the risk. So this is the advantage of investing in unit trust. Let's say, for example, you have only 100 ringgit investment in ASB. You only have 100 ringgit investment in ASB. You can't even buy one lot of shares in Bursa Malaysia with 100 ringgit or 200 ringgit. There's no shares that worth 100 for one lot of shares in Bursa Malaysia. With your 100 ringgit or 200 ringgit capital, you will not be able to invest in any shares in Bursa Malaysia. But if you invest your money in ASB, your 100 ringgit combined with other money contributed by other investors, you have a big fund of money. So this fund will be invested in so many shares. So theoretically speaking, your 100 ringgit investment in your 100 ringgit investment in ASB is diversified into so many shares. This is the advantage of investing in unit trust. I did mention this in my yesterday's lecture. Okay. If the fund manager made the right decision and they decide correctly, the value of shares goes up. Just imagine this is just like a pie. This is a pie or a pizza. Pizza or pie. Then if the value of the shares go up, the pie will grow bigger, right? The pizza will grow bigger, and the portfolio expands. Who get benefits of this expansion? The investors. So the value of your investment has grown. On the other hand, if the fund manager made the wrong decision, the value of shares goes down. The pie will shrink, mengecut lah, or the pizza will shrink. So who will suffer losses? The investors. the investors will suffer losses. Okay, so it is not easy managing other people's money. Yeah, if you make the wrong decision, the investors will not be happy because they are losing money, and you as fund manager will get fired, kena buang kerja. Yeah. On the other hand, if you manage the fund correctly, the investment expands, the investment grows, then you will be rewarded with bonus and salary increase and so many other perks, benefits that you can get. Okay, the value of the shares in this portfolio, the total value is called NAV or net asset value. We will go into this later on. So the value of the shares is net asset value. Oh, by the way, before I go to the net asset value, this investment, the combination of investment is split into units. That's why when you invest in ASB, for example, you fill up the form, right? Now you can invest through online lah. It's much easier. You don't have to go to banks or to the PNB office and queue. And now with COVID, you have to queue a very, very long queue. You have to wait for sometimes up to several hours. Now you can invest through online. You open up an account, ASB account, PNB account, and then you can transfer funds from your bank account into ASB. So it's easy. Okay, it does not matter whether you invest the old-fashioned way, going to banks or going to PNB office and fill in forms, or you do it online. The concept is similar. There is a number of units that you have to buy. For ASB, it's a fixed price unit. Each unit is RM1, right? So if you want to invest, let's say RM500, so you will be buying 500 units of ASB. So the whole portfolio will be divided into smaller units. In ASB, it is RM1 value for each unit. Yeah. Okay, and the value of each unit in ASB remain unchanged throughout your investment period. This is different from ASN. ASN, the value of the unit fluctuates daily depending on the value of the investment, whether the investment is expanding or shrinking. If the investment decreases in value, how can an investment decreases in value? If the price of the shares that you invest in goes down, so the net asset value or nilai aset bersih in bahasa Melayu will go down. So the value of your investment will shrink, and the value per unit will also go down. On the other hand, if the value of the investment grows, the value per unit for ASN will also grow. So the ASN unit, the price is not static. It changes every day, depending on how your fund performs. Okay. Do you have any question up to this point? Okay. Do you have any question? Ada apa-apa soalan tak? Tak ada Okay. If you do not have any question, let me explain to you. The concept of unit trust is different from the concept of savings account. Yeah. For layman, layman is orang-orang biasa lah. Orang-orang biasa. For many laymen who do not have knowledge on finance, Yeah, actually those who take finance are chosen few. Yeah, are chosen few. Right now, I do not know what is the problem, but right now it is much harder to get into a degree program. My neighbor, his son has just finished his diploma in investment analysis, and he applied for his degree. His CGPA is not that bad, 3.23 or something like that, but he was rejected for a degree program. So you have to consider yourself lucky to be able to continue with your degree, because nowadays competitions are quite stiff. Yeah. Okay. For those who are not educated in the field of finance or accounting or economics, frequently they do not understand the difference between what is the difference between unit trust, or the difference of putting your money into a savings account in the bank, or putting your money in tabung haji, or putting your money in EPF. EPF. Okay. Actually, even though the concept is quite similar, but it is not exactly similar. Actually, it is very, very different. Even though many people see the same process. Let's say I give you an example of putting your money into a savings account in the bank, or investing your money in ASB. Okay, these two. Some people they put their money into a savings account in the bank, or they want to put the money in ASB. Usually, many people regard it as similar. Of course, the physical process is similar. You go to the bank, you fill in the forms. If you want to do it using form, you fill in the forms, deposit form, deposit slip, and you go to the counter if you want to put your money in the savings account. Okay, and then you give the money to the teller at the counter, and then your account will be credited. Or nowadays people use CDM, cash deposit machine. Okay, so using cash deposit machine, or now people use internet banking, say IMB Clicks or Maybank to you, just transfer the money into the savings account. Okay, that is savings. That is savings. Simpanan. Itu simpanan. In the bank, it's called savings. Simpanan. Sebab tu, that's the reason why your account in the bank is called savings account. Account simpanan. On the other hand, if you invest in ASB, okay, the process is very, very much similar. You go to the bank or to the ASB office, you fill in the form, fill up the forms, and you bring the forms to the counter with your money, and you give the cashier the money, and then your ASB will be credited, ASB account. Or now you can do it online. But the way our money is managed is different. In terms legally speaking, if you put the money in the banks, the way they manage the money is different with if you put the money in ASB. The banks, they create money by giving out loans. If they pay you 5% interest, the money that you deposit into the bank, they give out loans. Let's say, for example, give out loans, car loans or housing loan or personal loan, and they charge it, let's say 10%. So they pay you 5%, they charge the borrowers 10%. So the difference is their profit. 10 minus 5 is 5. So this is for banks. This is a banking business. Okay, so in banking business, they accept deposit. Let's say they pay 5% on your deposits. you at the end of 1 year, you will be paid interest of 5%. And then they lend the money, and they charge, let's say, 10%. So the 5% is the bank's profit. Okay? Or interest, the bank profit. This is how the bank makes money. Of course, I explain it in a very simple term. Of course, banks have its own challenges of managing your money. Some borrowers do not pay back the money, and then the banks have to cover overhead expenses, office rental, staff salaries, and so on. Okay, for unit trust, it doesn't work this way. For unit trust like ASB, it works something like this. For unit trust, we don't call those who put the money in unit trust, we don't call them depositors. We call them investors. So the investors put in the money, and then the money will be managed by the fund manager or unit trust company, and then the money will be invested in and then if the investment is good, you make the unit trust makes money, then you will be given dividend based on the profit made by the unit trust. Okay, so that's why if you want to use the proper term, if you go to the bank to deposit your money, you should say that I'm saving my money. Saya simpan duit. If you go to ASB and you put your money, you don't say I simpan duit, I keep the money. You say I invest the money. So the right term should be investing the money. You don't say simpan. Tapi for many of us here, we don't really bother lah to differentiate between ASB, ASN. We use the word simpan for all those processes. Di bank pun kita panggil simpan, di ASB pun kita panggil simpan. Saya simpan duit kat ASB. Actually, I invest in ASB to use the right term. Kan? Okay. So, itu berbeza. Kan? Not many people realize it unless they study lah. Of course, every field of knowledge has its own rules, terms. That's why we study. That's why we learn, right? Otherwise, we cannot differentiate. Just like in accounting, like finance accounting, there is a difference between revenue, pendapatan, and profit. So those who do not study, they think it's similar. Profit is different than revenue. Okay. So I always emphasize to my students that as much as possible, try to use the right terms. Cuba gunakan istilah yang betul, yang tepat. Because if you use the wrong term, it means differently. Dia memberikan maksud yang berbeza. Okay. Let me give you an example of the concept of NAV, or net asset value. Net asset value. The short form of net asset value is NAV. In bahasa Melayu, in Malay, it's called nilai bersih aset, atau nilai aset bersih. Nilai aset bersih. Nilai bersih aset kan nilai aset bersih. Net asset value. Nilai aset bersih. Sounds awkward, Nilai aset bersih. Or nilai bersih aset. I do not know which one is the right term. But in English, it's called net asset value. Okay. I give you a very simple example. I give a very simple example, the concept of net asset value. Let's say, for example, a fund start with value of 100 million. Let's say 100 million. So we start off with 100 million. 100 million ringgit. You start with 100 million ringgit, and this 100 million ringgit is divided into 100 million units of trust. 100 million units. So start with 100 million ringgit investment and divided into 100 million units. So the NAV of the unit trust is the value of the portfolio value divided by number of units which is 100 million divided by 100 million. So we get 1 ringgit. Okay, let me explain to you again. We have 100 million ringgit of asset from the beginning, and then this 100 million ringgit of assets is invested in a portfolio, and then this 100 million ringgit of assets is divided into 100 million units of a unit trust. So we get the net asset value for each unit is 1 ringgit. Please take notes. The numerator is, there's a ringgit sign there. The denominator, there's no ringgit sign. So 100 divided by 100, we get 1 ringgit each. So this is the net asset value of the net asset value. Okay. Let's say, for example, if you after 1 year, let's say after 1 year, the value of the portfolio grows. Let's say after 1 year, your portfolio, the portfolio that starts with 100 million ringgit has grown to 120 million, for example. So the fund manager or the investors, the fund manager made the right decision. They invest in the right stocks, and the stocks price goes up, and the value of the portfolio has grown by 20% to become 120 million. The number of units still 100 million, right? So number of units does not change. So number of units remain at 100 million ringgit, 100 million units. So the NAV is equal to 120 million. It's the value of the portfolio divided by 100 million units of unit trust. So you'll get 120. So now your unit trust has gone up in value. You started with 1 ringgit for each unit trust. Now the value has gone up to 120. So you'll be very happy because your asset has grown. The net asset value has grown. So in this case, you'll be very, very happy because your investment has grown. On the other hand, if the fund manager or if the unit trust company made the wrong decision, instead of expanding, your investment is shrinking. Let's say, for example, it goes down from 100 million ringgit to become 80 million ringgit only. So after 1 year, your value of net asset value of your investment has shrunk from 1 ringgit to become 80 cents. So you will not be happy if the value of the portfolio goes down to, let's say for example, if from 100 million to be 80 million only, so the net asset value will become 80 million ringgit divided by 100 million units, so you get 80 cents per unit. So the net asset value has gone down in case if the value of the portfolio goes down. So in this example, the investors will not be happy with the performance of the portfolio manager, and of course if the portfolio manager does not perform, they can get sacked, kena buang, or they can be replaced by other fund managers. So this is the challenge of being the fund manager. Okay, you might be asking, okay, in the case of ASN, this like this, the value of the value of your buying price goes up and down. You might be asking, what happens if I invest in ASB? It remains 1 ringgit, right? So the value of the price of ASB does not depend on NAV, the NAV. Whenever you want to invest your money in ASB, the price remains 1 ringgit. Actually, there is the NAV of ASB investment, but it is hidden from you as investors. So probably the NAV has gone up, probably the NAV has gone down, but we do not know, because whenever you want to buy unit of ASB, you will always pay 1 ringgit. But the thing is, so in this case it is less transparent lah, kurang telus lah as compared to ASN. We do not know what is the NAV of ASB. We do not, as an investor, we do not know. But the management of ASB, they know. If they do not perform well and they keep on repeating the mistakes, and as a result the value of your portfolio shrinks, even though you do not know, you as an investor do not know, they know. If this keep on continuing for a long period of time, then the fund will lose money, and sooner or later they will not be able to pay investors the dividend that we used to take for granted, right? As of this year, ASB still pay very decent dividend. What was the rate for last year? I think something like 5%, 5% dividend, or 7% dividend. It's okay. The rate of dividend for ASB is quite decent lah. Agak-agak boleh lah, as compared to tabung haji, or as compared to EPF, kumpulan wang simpanan pekerja. That probably give you an indication how the ASB fund managers perform. If they do not perform, they can hide it from us, because we still pay 1 ringgit. But later on, sooner or later, people will discover, because if they lose money, sooner or later they will not be able to pay dividends to us. They will not be able to keep the thing hidden from us. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any question up to this point? Okay, if you do not have any question, I guess I will stop here today, and we will continue tomorrow. And selamat berpuasa, ya. Starting from tomorrow, we will have our fasting, Ramadan, first day of Ramadan, and our lecture continues as usual. Okay, until I see you again tomorrow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Okay, by the way, if you see that there's a water there, it's actually it's not mine. It belongs to my son. He usually works until, so my house is just like a workstation, see? sinilah tempat anak saya kerja, sinilah tempat saya kerja. Jadi kalau bulan puasa boleh tengok ada lagi botol air kat tepi tu. It's not that I do not fast. My son usually work late until sometimes early in the morning, pukul 2 pagi, pukul 3 pagi, dan dia selalu minum lah. Siang dia tidur. He works from home for the past 1 year lah. Kan? Okay, jadi macam tu lah. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.